Thank you. Hello all. I will try and keep to time. I'm famously bad at doing that, but I'll do my best. So, KIRO. Who has heard of KIRO here? Oh, quite a few. That's good. Who's actually on the preview of KIRO? Nobody. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm going to introduce what KIRO is. Talk you through the thoughts behind it, and then I'm going to do the riskiest thing possible, which is a live demo of a preview product. Let's see how well that goes. So let's start the presentation, and hopefully this is the best bit of the presentation. Okay, we can all go home now. So, KIRO, what is it? It's an IDE, as Nick was talking about. Use an IDE. I am very guilty of using VI, have done throughout my whole career, except when I'm writing real software. Then I use an IDE, because you want stuff plugged in, you want help. You don't want to be doing it all raw. I still use VI for doing scripting and things like that. I'm sure I shouldn't, but there we go. So what is KIRO? What's the point of having yet another IDE? We've got an awful lot of IDEs. Why do we need another one? KIRO came out of the idea of, if you've seen Q Developer and tools like that, they are built into your IDE. They're giving you help as you're going. Yeah, so you might be doing the code and it pops in and says, "Ooh, how about you do this differently?" Or I could come up with a chunk of code that you might like, you might not like. I can also pick out problems that you've not noticed in your code. It's like, oh, that's a security problem in that bit of code. Maybe you want to dig into that. I could have a go at fixing it for you. So KIRO came out from an experiment to say, well, what if we did it the other way around? And instead of using it as a little thing that prompts you as you're going along, or you could ask questions, it's like, how about we start just letting the AI do things, and we tell it properly how we want it to do things. So that's where it came from. It's been very interesting, the sort of uptake of it so far. So AI is changing software. This does not mean AI is going to take everybody's jobs away, all you people training to be software developers. It's like, I'm an old guy. I've seen an awful lot of change. Everything that comes along that's big is going to take people's jobs away. It's going to completely change the way software development's done. What happens is people's jobs change. What you're actually doing day to day changes. When I started my career, I was a C developer, also coding in assembler. Not many people code in assembler anymore. So these tools came along, fourth generation languages, things like Java and other higher level languages, which meant you didn't need to code in assembler as often. And that eventually went away. Or, well, there is still some assembler coding going on, but it's not as common. We used to, we'd write a function in C, we'd compile it, we'd then go into the stuff the compiler had done and cut out lots of things so that we could speed the code up. You don't tend to do that sort of thing anymore. All these changes that come along will change your job and hopefully make you more productive. It used to take us forever to build things by doing that way. So AI is changing software the last sort of 3 or 4 years very, very rapidly. So 2023 was kind of the autocomplete year. 2024 we had assistants giving you pieces of code, answering questions, so you could ask it, how would I go about doing this? It's like, is that the right function I should be using? And then 2025 we're now seeing agents doing guided development. So the promise of agentic, which means using agents, agentic development, is that agents can do more themselves. So yeah, more challenging things instead of just giving you, pointers on, a small piece of code or where you've done something wrong. you can work in collaboration with an agent. So it's not just you writing code and getting prompted. You can actually talk to the agent and get the agent to give you ideas. Not saying the ideas will all be good, but they're giving you thoughts. So it's like, all right, I'm building something, let's say it's something really simple. I'm building a 3-tier architecture. Most of us know how to do that in our sleep, but instead of actually going, right, I'm going to build a 3-tier architecture, God, that's a really dull thing to do. I can just say to the agent, build me a scaffold of a 3-tier architecture. Just go and do all of that crud. Now, yes, we would probably, if you're a senior developer, you'll have a whole library of this sort of stuff that you just say, I want that template, blat it in. But it's that sort of idea of the agent knows how to do a huge amount of stuff, make use of it, change what you're actually doing as a developer to get more value for your business or your pet project or whatever it is. And hopefully, higher quality code. That's what we want. Higher quality, more secure, better code, and documentation. Really important thing that Nick mentioned is how often is good documentation there? It's quite rare. You can use AI to go and look at a repo that doesn't have any documentation and say, tell me what this does. When I was a developer, you'd frequently get repos coming across from other teams. It's like, we can't manage this anymore. Here you go. You're now owning that. What does it do? Oh, it does, wavy hand business things. How does the code work? Oh, we don't know. The guy who did that's left. Right, okay, so I've got days worth of picking through this repo, trying to work out how it's working, why it's working, what were the decisions. None of that's documented. You can go to AI, point it at a repo and say, just tell me how it works. What are the bits in it? So really useful for that. Challenges with the current AI development, there are plenty of them, as Nick has alluded to previously as well. Scaling AI development is quite hard. It's really good at small tasks. It's not great at big tasks at the moment. And that's something that KIRO is trying to help with. You've got limited control. So the agent will do, the AI will do what the AI will do. How do I stop it just going off randomly, doing a whole bunch of stuff which isn't useful to me? I want to be able to direct it so that it does something that's actually useful. And code quality. Anyone who's used AI assistants will know that sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really, really bad. If you're a junior developer using these tools and you don't know what good looks like and you're just learning, they can be really bad for you and you can go down some horrendous rabbit holes. Whereas a senior should just be able to look at the code and say, that's trash, I'm not even spending any time on that, that's the wrong way of doing it. So, solution at the moment. I'm sure there will be great developments in this space. I would say exciting time to be a developer, the amount of change that is coming through this. So the solution that KIRO has adopted is spec-driven development. We'll come on to what that means in detail when I do the hopefully working demo. But basically, instead of just saying to an AI assistant, I would like you to do blah. That's basically called zero-shot AI. So it has no context. It might look at your code and try and work it out, but it doesn't know what you're really doing. It's just got your prompt. Whereas with spec-driven, you start off, and KIRO does, we'll walk through how KIRO does this. You basically say to it, I want to do a bunch of things. And instead of starting off and writing you a bunch of code that you go, no, that wasn't what I wanted you to build, it writes a spec. And that's an MD file in a particular format that says, right, what are the sort of user journeys that we're trying to hit, right? So you've said to me, I mean, anyone who's seen my talks know NoSQL is my sort of thing. I really like databases, so when I first started using KIRO, it's like, I may as well write a NoSQL database because that's the sort of thing I like. So I say to KIRO, I want to write a NoSQL database. That's all I said to it. I said, right, I'll build you a spec for that. And I get 10 different user stories about that. So, as a user, you're going to want to send data to an API. It's going to be in this format. You're going to want to write that to storage. So it comes out with that. You're going to, as a user, you're going to want to talk to the API and ask for data to come back out. I need to read that from storage. So it does a whole bunch of user stories in a spec file. You can then go into that and read the spec of what it thinks you want and tweak it. And say, yeah, okay, that's good, but I don't really want it to be writing to storage. I want to keep it only in memory or something like that. So you can tweak that specification before AI goes and writes any code at all. And once you've done that, you say, okay, I think that spec's pretty good. Go and do a design. And it will go and build you a design. And that design is a technical way that it thinks you would build something like this. And it will diagram it. It will have all the different parts of it all together. And it will suggest the tech stack that it's going to build. And again, you can tweak at that at this point. So you've got control through that. And then finally, you can say to it, go and write the code and do it bit by bit so I can look what you're doing, check that it works, check that it's what I actually want. So what we've got here is suggesting, has everybody heard of vibe coding? Yep. Okay, great. I'll not go into it. Did anyone say no? Because I'm going to skip it unless somebody doesn't know what vibe coding is. Right? No nos. So vibe coding helps you, with implementation. It can be useful. It's basically chatting to the AI agent and asking it to do things. It can be useful round about doing small, medium tasks. Spec-driven development lets you do more. Potentially all of the job, but obviously more. Very good for POCing, building something fast, and then you need your traditional practices to make sure you get through to production in a safe manner. So, as I've said, what would development look like if you were working with AI agents? That is what KIRO is. Those of you who use VS Code might recognize this because KIRO comes from the open source version of VS Code, Code OSS. So there's no point in building a new AI from the ground up, a new IDE from the ground up when you've got a really good one that's open source. So it's compatible with VS Code, so all the extensions you currently use, you can load into KIRO. Pretty much talk through this. If the live demo doesn't work, this is a video and it will show you it working in reality. So you can iterate with KIRO. It's not a one-shot thing. You can get it to, you can talk to it after it's done development. You can tweak the specs, get it to do it again, and you stay in control because you're doing it from a spec. And the other really good thing about spec-driven is that if you're using something where you're just saying to the AI, please will you write this little bit of code, and this little bit of code, and this little bit of code, by the time you end up with a project, where's your decision documentation? All the decisions that have been made while you've been talking to the AI, you've probably forgotten it all. So how do you document why you did something, why the AI's done it? With spec-driven, you're keeping all of that available for future use. It's in your repo, and you can go back to it and see why you've made a whole bunch of decisions and why the AI has done things.
Does that make it more deterministic?
It gives you more control. So yes, it's like, we'll come on to some of the things you can do roundabout. For example, you can see there, agent steering. You can say to it, Here is a good repo. Produce agent steering files, which is, a product should look like this. It should have these sorts of tech things in it. We like using this library, this library, this library. So make sure you use those. Whereas, if you're chatting to an AI, it will go, how about we use this project? It's like, never used that before. What's the security position of that open source library you're now pulling into my stack? Is that a good idea? We've got no experience with that. No, I don't want you to do that. So with agent steering, you can say, keep over here. This is how we like to lay out projects. This is our naming conventions for functions. This is how we like code to look. Excuse me. So yeah, you can steer it an awful lot more than you can with just the chat side, and produce something that is far more in line with what you would want as a development house. Agent hooks. So you also are likely to want things to happen in the background while you're making use of an IDE. So really simple idea, really simple example. When you save a file, you might want a test run. When you do something that means that there would be a change to Git, maybe you want to run a linter before it goes anywhere near Git. So you get the code in the correct formatting. You can set up agent hooks that will operate automatically in certain conditions. You can set up ones that will produce buttons in the IDE that just says, I'm going to click that button when I want it to do something. So again, you can customize the IDE to work with you as you're building. So it could be as you're making changes, you want it to generate some documentation as you're doing the changes, instead of having to remember to ask it to do that towards the end. Not running the videos, they're quite long. So, advanced context management. When an LLM, and I'm presuming everybody is familiar with LLMs here, when an LLM is trained, it's trained on a whole bunch of data to a certain point. Okay? It doesn't really understand things beyond its training data. Now that's okay for a lot of things, but let's say you're using an LLM as you're coding, and you're doing something with AWS, and we change one of the APIs. The LLM doesn't know that the API's changed. Therefore, all the code it gives you round about this is going to be wrong. That's not great. So we have integration with MCPs, Model Context Protocol Servers. Has everybody heard of those, or shall I have a brief go? Some people have, some people haven't. Okay, so this is a protocol for talking to other things. This lets an AI agent talk out to something that actually knows the current situation. That might be as simple as an MCP that talks to the AWS documentation, so it can go and look up things to do with AWS in real time. It could be a connection to a database, so that it knows how to talk to Oracle, for example. It could be talking to a bespoke API. So how do I build something that talks to that API over there when the LLM has never seen that API? So you would build an MCP server to talk to and understand that API. So it lets you expand the capability of the agent, the LLM that's underneath the agent, with real-time data. Okay? Lots of companies throughout the world are writing MCP servers at pace just now. It could be as I want something to be created in Jira. I want a ticket to be raised in Jira. So there's an MCP for talking to Jira. There's one for talking to Confluence. I think that one's out. Yes?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It's either out or it will be out very shortly. Yeah. So yeah, you can have the agent creating tickets for you in Jira from your IDE, so you don't have to stop what you do. Okay. And this lets you put things into your IDE like servers that understand how to build AWS architecture diagrams, which an LLM will have a stab at, but might not be very good. Specific MCP server, which exists, which knows how to build them and will build them for you. So instead of it just being a mermaid diagram, you can have KIRO build AWS architecture diagrams as part of what it does for you. Other cloud providers are available. They will also have MCP servers that will help you deal with their side. Also means you can drop an image of your design into KIRO and have it look at that diagram, work out what you're meaning by your diagram, and it will then have a go at building it. You can drop an AWS architecture diagram in there, and it will understand that, build you a spec, and say, this is what I'm going to build based on what you've put on that diagram. Drop in a UI design. It'll have a go at building that for you. Okay. So as I've already mentioned, compatible with VS Code. It's currently using Claude Sonnet 3.704. It will advance. It will change the models all the time. At the moment, you can pick a couple of different models, but the models we use in the background, in the back end, will change and advance, and it will get better and better as we're going along. Use cases: build new apps, build additional features on existing apps, refactor and modernize. Understand your code base. It can guide you through refactoring. If you don't want it to actually do it, it can talk you through what it would do, and you can go, that's very interesting. I'm now going to do that because I don't trust an AI coder. So you can use as little or as much of this as you want. Of course, I'm going to say loved by customers and engineers, but in particular cases, it's really, really valuable. So yeah, in 4 lines of a spec, KIRO could write user stories like a product manager. Maybe not to the full depth of what a product manager would do for you, but it's helping speed up development and get you where you want to be. There is a free tier for KIRO, so unfortunately there's also a waiting list. Quite a long waiting list. Hopefully soon that waiting list will get cleared, and as in people will be invited in. So yeah, it's like, do sign up. There is a reasonable free tier for you to play around with, see whether it works for you, see whether it's interesting for your company, or even for your personal projects. For me, I was in it at day one, and that's not as an AWS employee. I was waiting for this to come out because I'd heard of it. And it was just like, when I saw what it could do, it's like, oh, I've got all these personal projects I've never had enough time to do. I'm just going to batter them through KIRO and just see how it does. And it was brilliant. I've now got a whole bunch of my backlog of projects partially built that I can now build on when I actually get the time that I never seem to get. But yeah, the leap that this made for me as a former developer and a very bad dabbler now, the leap this made was amazing. So yeah, very interesting, and hopefully you'll agree when you get a chance to try it out. That was the presentation. Any questions before I try to have a go at doing a demo? Right, I'll very, very briefly show you the spec-driven side. So I'm going to create a new folder. Those with eagle eyes will notice I've got a Lisp directory in there. Anyone know what Lisp is?
When you make your come.
That's a shame. I thought there'd be some coding person that would go, oh my God, Lisp. Lisp is a language from quite a while ago. So I was playing with KIRO, and it's like, okay, officially, we don't support languages like Lisp. But I thought, I wonder if the LLM actually knows what Lisp is and whether it can code in it. And the answer is, yes, it can. So I converted some Golang code that I had to Lisp. I got it to build me a Lambda using Lisp, which is just ridiculous. A really old language that's not used very much, running in a Lambda. And I did almost none of the coding. Just mind-boggling. Right, so I'm going to do a spec. And I am not going to make you watch me type things. So I've mentioned 3-tier application. So I am going to say to KIRO, and hopefully the network will let me do this. So I'd like to create a 3-tier application to help me manage my to-do list. So a really, really simple example. And yeah, should be relatively good at this. So web tier should be a React application, backend should use Python, and the database tier should be DynamoDB, spelt wrong because it's me. And I'd like the project to be built and run in AWS. So let's see what KIRO does with that. It might fall, oh, great idea. I'm not sure we need another to-do application out there, but okay, great idea. So at this point, it is going to build me a requirements thing, which is our spec. Okay, so if I go, maybe it's not going to work for me. Oh, it is. So it has built me a requirements document that I can now play with. That was much faster than I was expecting, which is really good. So the requirements document is set up in a particular format. It gives us a bit of blurb about what we're trying to do, and then it builds out the user stories. So as a user story, I want to create and manage to-do items so that I can organize and track my tasks effectively. Now we've got the acceptance criteria. What does it have to do at each stage? So when a user creates a new to-do item, then the system shall store the item with a title, description, date, priority level. So it's the sort of thing that you would do either as a product manager / developer. You build out requirements of what you're going to build. You don't just start coding. Bad old days, we did used to just start coding, and then we got in a hell of a mess because we hadn't actually planned any of it out. So this is why we come up with a list of what we're actually going to build beforehand, and we actually look for edge cases so that when we come to the testing phase, we can actually test for where we think things will break. Requirement 2, as a user, I want to organize my to-dos by categories and priorities. I might not. I can tweak it at this stage and change how the application it's going to build is going to look. I don't have any agent steering. I did mention agent steering before. This is how you can say how you want a project to look like. So if I didn't want it to just behave and go off and do whatever, I could give it steering as to what language I want, how I want the project to be structured, what libraries we're happy with using. But just as a very quick demo, I think I'm happy with that requirements. Yeah, we've scanned through all of that. Let's move to the design phase. So at this point, it's going to go through and it's talking to us, telling us what we're doing as it's going. And it's going to work through that, that spec, and it's going to build us a design. And with a bit of luck, it'll also give us a diagram as to what it's going to look like. And it will talk us through some of the data decisions it's making.
I saw that these CP servers, you'd have Jira and then say, right, take all the user stories you've generated and create some tasks.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So you can get it to go and build things out once you're happy with it. Obviously, you don't want step 1 to go and build your whole backlog of stuff that you then go, that's rubbish. But absolutely, you could get it to, in the background, go and set up your sprint, whack a whole bunch of backlog items in there, and yeah, take away some of the admin crud that we have to do. So I've now got a design. Now, let me see if I can actually fit this in so we can view the design. Get rid of that, give me a bit more space. So here is my design document. Important to say, I've only given it that one prompt from the beginning that's talked about the 3-tier web application being a to-do app. I've not tweaked anything else, so this is it going through and coming out with a reasonable-ish 3-tier architecture. Now, you might disagree with the details, absolutely, but you can see how much it can actually do on its own with very, very little prompting. And that we have control all the way through. So I can change the design if I don't like the design. I can change the spec to tweak what it is it's actually going to do. And go through the design, gives us deployment options. So it gives us serverless as being recommended. I'd absolutely go with that until our application takes off and we've got millions of users. Maybe we'd want to containerize it at that point. So we've got components, interfaces, API endpoints, even the DynamoDB schema. There's an MCP server, you'll not be surprised to hear, that helps with DynamoDB data modeling, which is one of the really tricky things that people do struggle with around about DynamoDB. You can have an MCP server that you can then query as you're going along, and it will help you build out a decent database schema and data design for DynamoDB. So we've also got our data models in here. Again, we might not actually agree with some of these things, but it's just giving you an idea of what it can do. So we've got a reasonable design here. So what the heck, let's go on to implementation. And it is now going to give us an implementation list. So it's going to now turn that design document into a set of tasks, a set of building tasks that you can then one by one say, I want you to go and do this. It's optional. You don't have to have the code building it. You could just be using KIRO to come up with the spec, tweak the spec, come up with a design, give you some recommendations as to how you'd build it in AWS, and then stop at that point and go and code it. Or you could use KIRO to set up the project, do all the boilerplate stuff, get it ready for you coding, and then you don't have to set out the project and things to start with. So you can use as little or much as you like. So here's an implementation plan. And it's broken things down into steps, which I could start. I'm not going to, given the time. But first one, set up a project structure. That's a good start for a project. So set up a project structure, development environment, create all the directories we're going to need for React and Python, set up the initial packages that we're going to need, basic configuration, and that's it. So if I said start at this point on task 1, it will literally, once I give it permissions, I have to give it permissions to do it then on my machine, it'll then go and build all the directories in a particular format and set up the files that we would need. And it will stop at that point, not actually doing any coding. If we were using agent steering, that would build a project in exactly the format that we like our projects to be built in. And it will use naming conventions that we tell it we want to use. So making the code a bit more usable for people as it's going. I could then get it to just implement the data models and validation. So I can get it to do bits and pieces all the way through. And if I went through all of the tasks, I should, at the end of it, have a working to-do application that I can deploy into AWS. You see at the bottom here, it's saying it could create CDK or CloudFormation for me to build the whole thing and push it up to AWS. Yes.
I just wonder, how does it handle bugs? Like, what if it runs into an issue midway through a task? How does it handle that?
It will flag it to you and say it can't do it. It might also create things that don't compile. So at the moment, I've not got. Well, my laptop can't actually run Python projects. I've got nothing on there. It's like when I build stuff in AWS. I don't actually use it on my laptop. So I've not got any of the prereqs. So it will error everything if I say go. If I then say to it, can you tell me what's wrong? Why is that code not working? It will look at my machine and it will say, you're missing this library, this library, this library. Go and run, npm whatever to install everything, and it will tell me what is missing. So you can, it will flag that it's failed if it's completely failed the task. It might complete a task successfully and you have code that doesn't work, in which case you can chat to the agent and say, how do I fix this? And it will give you steps to fix. And you can also say to it, just go and fix it. Okay. I'm going to stop there, given time. That's almost at end. Any other questions? Ace?
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
All right.